All great mentorships start with a spark of connection. Our personal stories hold the power to inspire others and create meaningful connections. Sarah Haggard, Tribute founder and CEO, is here to share how to use your personal stories and life experiences to mentor others. Today, you'll learn why storytelling is so essential for effective mentoring, how to tell your story, and how to set the stage for meaningful connections in your mentoring relationships. Sarah is a proven business leader who has led multiple startup initiatives within her decade-long career in product marketing at Microsoft, raising $40 million to scale her last business. An expert in P&L management, enterprise software, and GTM strategy, Sarah's tenacity and drive for results led her to being widely recognized as a turnaround expert and new business incubator. Sarah's leadership style is engaging and authentic. Her superpower is her ability to spot patterns, create high-performing teams, and activate the right people at the right time to deliver results. Please welcome Sarah Haggard.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Can you guys hear me in the back? Okay. Awesome. Thank you for the thumbs up. It's an honor to be here today and to be sharing my story as a founder in the Seattle ecosystem and sort of my passion for not only mentorship but storytelling. So I want to give you a little bit about me, share a little bit about Tribute, which is the company that I started, and then really the theme of today's talk is I think we all know the importance of mentorship, but I think we've all found ourselves maybe in some awkward mentorship relationships too, where you don't really know, what do I have to get? What do I really need out of this? How do I get it? And so that's a problem that we've really tackled at Tribute to solve. And we've learned some things along the way. So I want to share that with you. But first, I'll just share you a little bit about me. I live on a houseboat just not too far from here, right by Gasworks Park. That was my first startup initiative, as I like to call it, but got to build that custom home a couple years ago, had to fundraise to get it done, so no stranger to fundraising. It's a pretty cool life, not with all this rain, certainly, but in the summertime, I'm pretty popular. So my background, I actually have a degree in anthropology, and I wanted to go save the world one person at a time. The kind of joke is I famously told my parents at 8 years old I was going to be a humanitarian. I wasn't going to do computers because they were both computer scientists working in that respective field. My brother was sort of the STEM boy genius kid, and he went on to be a missionary in Albania, and I worked at Microsoft for 10 years. So cannot tell you how that happened, but I have a background in social sciences, and I kind of ended up in tech by accident. Now that Tribute has come to be, it seems less of an accident. But that's my background. I worked at Microsoft for 10 plus years. As that intro said, I worked in product marketing in various roles, and only now looking back, did quite a few startups inside of Microsoft, but didn't ever think I'd be an entrepreneur. I then went on to get my MBA at Seattle University after briefly considering getting a computer science degree here in UW because I had major imposter syndrome working at Microsoft and thought if I had a computer science degree, I'd be a better employee. I went on to get my MBA instead. I'm passionate about human connection, storytelling, and mentorship. And as I mentioned, I am the founder of a company called Tribute. Just a quick show of hands. Has anybody heard of Tribute in the local ecosystem? I know Laura has. Anyone else heard of Tribute? Okay, we've got to do some better marketing. All right, so let me share them what Tribute is. So Tribute is a modern mentorship app that helps people connect for mentorship, leading with personal storytelling and helping you connect for mentorship through life experiences in addition to professional skills. So I'll kind of show you what that means, but we're an enterprise SaaS platform. We originally, the idea was to be a B2C platform, and we made a choice pretty early on in the business, and if any of you are founders, entrepreneurs in the room, B2C businesses are just a very difficult endeavor. So we made a pivot to B2B, and really our focus is,
What's B2C?
Oh, sorry, business to consumer. When we say B2C, so being a consumer app instead of a B2B business to business app. So we're an enterprise platform, and really what we do is we go into companies and we use mentorship as a vehicle to activate talent in the workplace, right? So that you create community, you find the help you're looking for, and ultimately you want to stay at that company. So that's a little bit about us. We do offer the other half of our product, which I'll show, offers companies organizational insights into what are some of those life experiences that employees are seeking mentorship on, who's mentoring whom, who is actually demonstrating the leadership attributes that we're looking for in the organization, and this, from the company side, really helps them understand what talent they have in their workplace as well. So how it works, I'll just do a quick little walk through here, but there's 3 different ways that you can find mentors in our platform today. The first way that you can do that is you can swipe through people's story cards. So we give you about 100 characters to tell your story. And you'll see there that you only see your name, your photo, and your story. So what's a little bit different about Tribute is we're trying to sort of democratize mentorship a little bit away from your title or your age or your company, but really having that story be the only thing that people read about you first, right? So you can swipe through, you can read people's stories, and you can immediately request mentorship right from that experience. But you can also follow people. So if you're reading someone's story and you find it to be interesting, but maybe you don't have a mentorship need at that exact moment, you can follow them, and then you can start to read their reflections. We call them reflections. Other people, Facebook calls it your status, right? But this is a way in the app for you to actually kind of post inspiring words of wisdom, quotes, whatever that may be, to those that follow you, and you can kind of start to build your network of mentors for a rainy day. And then the third way that you can do that is in the app, we actually have a way to create community groups. And so within organizations, this can be for employee resource groups, they can be by department, or even by topics of interest. I know imposter syndrome, public speaking, these are really common topics when we talk to people that they're seeking mentorship around. So you can create community groups around those topics where maybe I don't need to ask somebody one-to-one to mentor me on this. I can just go to that group and say, hey, I've got a talk coming up, give me some tips and tricks, and really have this group mentorship. So it's a little bit different than just the one-to-one mentorship that we typically engage in today. So those are the different ways that you can find a mentor. And for the company, as I mentioned, we offer an analytics dashboard for them, which is really why they pay us, right? In addition to offering a unique user experience to find mentors, but this enables some unique insight back to them within their organization. We can track things like reduction of onboarding time when you have new employees coming in, especially in sales roles where you've got quotas and you need to be efficient. So we can do all of that in addition to just tracking and getting out of the spreadsheets that a lot of us are using today to get matched with mentors, find mentors, right? So that's Tribute and the product that I founded. We're about 2 years old. We just turned 2 in January. We are live with Microsoft's Humans of IT community. It's a global, free and open network of IT professionals. There's about 7,000 of them worldwide. And so that's an open community that Microsoft sponsors, so we're live with them. We just had a launch last weekend with an organization called Women in Cloud that's local, and we're also launching with Zillow later this month. So we're in the thick of it. If there's are there any founders in the room, just out of curiosity? Okay. Entrepreneurs? Okay, awesome. So I've got lots of friends in the room. You guys understand building a business takes quite a bit of work. So we're on our way. I left Microsoft formally last April, so I've been doing this full time ever since. But all that being said, I think for the purpose of today, kind of why we're here, I think, why does storytelling matter when it comes to mentorship? Kind of what's, why does it matter? And I just want to ask kind of by show of hands, like how many of you guys feel confident that you know how to have a successful conversation with your mentor if you were matched with one today? Like you could just dive right in, you know what you have to give, you know what you're looking to get. Not so many, okay. I've heard a lot in the last few years. I mean, I'm personally passionate about storytelling as an anthropologist, like storytelling, language, that's how culture, right? It's an artifact of culture, language. But it's been really fascinating in leading Tribute for the last 2 years, reading thousands and thousands of stories and talking to people and how they do their mentorship programs, each different way. Why storytelling matters. I think I often encounter people, especially mentees, who say, I have nothing, I don't know what I have to give my mentor. Like, I know maybe what I'm needing or where I'm lacking and what I want to get, but I don't know that I have anything to bring to the conversation. And I think That's certainly false, number one. But I think that a lot of times people feel that way because they haven't exactly treated mentorship like a wisdom exchange and really looked at the life experiences that you have gone through up until this point. Even if you're in college, you've still had 22, 24 years of life and lived experiences that you can go back and harvest that life experience for those points of wisdom along the way, and that ultimately is what you have to give to someone else, right? So I think that's the reason, but there's actually, I know the talk is the art of storytelling, and we're definitely gonna, get into that, but there's actually scientific reasons as well that storytelling actually benefits and helps us make greater connections with other human beings, right? So when we tell stories, I was actually recently down at a conference in San Francisco, and the lead storyteller at Pixar, a guy named Nathan Loon, who is a wonderful speaker if you ever have had a chance to listen to him. He was walking through this research as well, which is that when we tell our stories, we release oxytocin in the brain, which actually releases feelings of love and empathy towards other people, right? It's why when Game of Thrones ended, we were all like, oh no, like, there's no more Game of Thrones unless maybe they go back and they make a prequel or something, you know what I mean? But and if you remember the end of Game of Thrones, Tyrion said, all we have is our stories, right? And he walked us through in the audience how Pixar has this formula for storytelling, right? Which is, a classic story arc. We'll walk through a couple of them so you can think about that in your own life. But really, we do release oxytocin, which forms a human connection, right? And there's, as you can see, other benefits here too. I think, being able to bring our full authentic self to work is something that I think is new in the workplace. I think it's, new-ish. I definitely grew up in the Midwest where you leave your personal stuff at the door, you go to work, you work hard, and you go home. But I think that more organizations today are recognizing the power of being able to allow their employees to bring all of it to work. And HBR just did a study that said to mentor somebody, you have to mentor the whole person. So I think, embracing even some of the personal, stories and experiences that you've had can actually help you in the workplace and can help you bring more authenticity to work. And I think we're in an environment where that matters. Another interesting fact, storytelling, and when we tell stories, it actually activates the amygdala in the brain as well. And that's your memory and response center, right? And so an interesting fact, a well-told story can actually change your mind on a subject where you were fixed mindset before, right? And where data could not change your mind. So you could have all the data in the world that says you should make this decision, and you could have a story being told to you that convinces the case, makes an emotional connection, and you change your mind. So the second benefit of not only storytelling in the workplace, but knowing your own personal story is when you're going and seeking mentors, right? And maybe you're intimidated because this person has a really big title and, I don't know if they want to work with me. Maybe it's not worth their time. Not only are you going to feel more confident walking into that engagement, but maybe you lead with hey, let me tell you a quick story about me and why I, am in this, why I am where I am today and why I'm looking for help and why I think you can help me, right? Or what I saw in you that I relate to in myself, that can change somebody's mind and activate that response for them, right? So I think that's another reason. I think creating a culture of inclusion and belonging, it's been interesting in this business. I'll be honest with you. I think a lot of companies talk this talk and don't walk this walk. And, I'm in this business. And, there's some people that are really responsive to culture is everything. And there's some people that I don't care, bottom line, this product's going to help me, reduce turnover so that people stop walking out and I stop paying for it. Great. Other companies, namely Microsoft and Zillow, are early adopters, really do care about the cultures that they create. And I think being able to lead with your story and what makes you uniquely different creates that rich, diverse culture where we're not all just shooting for the top title in the organization and looking up for mentors, right? We all have that breadth of experience. And I think finally, the other interesting thing about this is, improv artists, if any of you do improv, okay, you kind of know where I'm going with this. The concept of yes and, right, that improv artists taught us, right? So yes and in improv, if you're going back and forth with somebody and they say, yeah, we were in the theater and then I called you and you're like, yes, and then we went to, you pick up that cue from somebody new, yes, and what it does is it creates a psychological safety, right, for your partner in an improv scenario to pick up and answer that question and move along with you, right? And that psychological safety in the workplace matters just the same, right? And we do our best work when we feel psychologically safe, and that's actually where creativity and innovation lies, right? And Amy Edmondson out of Harvard has lots of studies on this if you are curious to learn more. But storytelling activates all of these benefits for us in the workplace as a whole, collective unit, and also individually. And so I want to just show, and I've also, I guess the link went, but I wrote an article on my LinkedIn on why every chief people officer should include storytelling in the workplace. It sort of summarizes that. So if you're looking, if you want to kind of see a summary of that, you can find my article on LinkedIn and share that around as well. Other thing that I wanted to share too is that Deloitte's Human Capital Trends report. So this is a really fascinating report. If any of you are like social scientist geeks like me, it's an awesome report to read. But what's also kind of interesting in this year's report is they showed that there's two different shifts happening in the workplace. So you've got this sort of focus from professional now moving to be more personal, right? Which is also sort of opening the door for us to be more storytelling based instead of here's my resume and my skills and my credentials. But you're also seeing the shift on the bottom of organizational-led mentoring programs where you just sort of wait for your organization to tap you on the shoulder and say, here's your mentor, to more employee-driven programs, right? And you can kind of, if you can see in the back, but what's interesting is what it ultimately does is it moves us from this sort of work-life balance, which I know I'm an elder millennial, 36, that was beat into my brain in my 20s, like work-life balance, like, and now we don't say that anymore, right? We say like integration or employee engagement or employee experience, but what they basically concluded is that the workplace is becoming more human and that companies are going to have to start really leaning into these human experiences that we have and how to activate those human experiences in the workplace, not just because it's a great thing to do, but because there's so much wisdom in our lived experiences. And when we connect with our with our colleagues, even make friends in the workplace, heaven forbid, we want to stay there, right? We're happy and we feel seen and heard. And I think that that's just a human condition that we all have that for me seems so simple, but at the same time, I think we sometimes forget the simplest things are the truest things. So this is an interesting report as well to take a look at. All right, so kind of getting to the meat of it. I think the next logical question that I get then is, okay, what's my story, right? So this is all fantastic, Sarah, but what do I share? What do I not share? How do I think about telling my story? So having read thousands of stories over the years and done multiple different storytelling workshops with people, I can tell you that this is what I've learned. And we can kind of go from there. But actually, a woman, Kate Goethals, if you know Kate, is a professor. She's an adjunct professor in the business department. But she actually introduced me to this lifeline exercise when I was working with her, doing some CEO coaching, and it was life-changing. So the first thing to do, and you can kind of, I think you guys get these slides after, I believe, so you can kind of mark this up on a piece of paper. But the first thing you want to do is write this timeline where you've got sort of a linear view here, and you've got your positive experiences and your negative. And what you basically do here is the step one is you plot your life journey map. And so you just put little circles and you put things like, oh, I don't know what happened down there, but you kind of go down, oops, okay, now my life is going up in the right direction. But you pick any moment in time. This can be from the moment you're born to today. If you're a little bit older, maybe that's too many dots on the line. I want to start maybe in my 20s. But you pick the time period that you want to look at, right? And you plot these in. And it doesn't necessarily have to be positive or negative in its outcome. It's just how you feel about it, right? How did you feel about it in that moment, right? Was it kind of trending not great? Or was it, a more positive experience? So step one is you plot your life journey map. Step two is you really then start outlining key themes and key turning points. So I just picked an example of it was going okay, tank, okay, and then I recovered. What happened in that moment, right? What did I do? Did I change a mindset? Did I ask for help? Did I figure it out? Was I more capable in that moment than I thought I was? Or even when things are going well. I think it doesn't always have to be when things aren't going well, but I also want to give you permission to look for the nuggets of wisdom when things don't go well, because that is very counterintuitive when we go to find mentors. I think we think, okay, I got my best face forward, here we go, like, okay, somebody mentor me. And, we don't tend to want to talk about maybe some of the more difficult times, but every time we go through adversity, there's wisdom in that. So for me, it was really interesting when I did that Lifeline. I found that my singular decision to go to college was the singular decision that changed my life around. I had a really tough upbringing growing up as a kid. I had a tough high school. I did not think I was going to go to college. I thought that it was not for me. And I made the choice to get up to apply to a school that I thought I couldn't get into. I got into that school. It didn't mean everything was rosy once I was there, but I did. I moved 3 hours away from home. It was the scariest and toughest decision I ever made, but that singular decision, when I look at all of the other major milestones in my life, they started trending upwards because I made that decision. Self-funded, parents weren't there to help me out. And so I didn't know that about myself until I actually did this exercise. So that was a really cool thing. And also, what's really interesting is I have this passion for mentoring college students, and I had no idea why. I just thought, well, maybe because I'm 36, I still kind of remember what it's like being in college, and I know how hard it is to get your first job out of college, so maybe that's why, but I think those things are connected, and I didn't ever connect them. So it's kind of fun to do. Identify key turning points, and then really, as I mentioned, reflect on those lessons. Do not try to write a story immediately from that, because you're going to be all over the place. I think you really just want to give yourself permission to jot down some notes on lessons that you learned, things that surprised you about yourself, etc. So do this work first, and you'll have something to work with. The next step after you do that is, okay, it's time to write my story. So how do I write my story? With Tribute, anyway, you get 100 characters in our app to write your story. So I would challenge all of you to do two things. I think try to get a short, because you always need, the founders in the room know this, right? You need your 30-second elevator pitch, your 2-minute pitch, your 10-minute pitch, right? Try to put it in 100 words just to see how succinct you can be. But also my challenge to everybody, and I do this every time we do this workshop, is to write a LinkedIn article. So within the next 2 weeks, because it has to be within 2 weeks, otherwise you forget and life goes on, arguably in the next week, figure out your title and take that story and put it in a LinkedIn article and put it out into the universe, right? It's scary, but you'll be surprised probably what you find. So what I found in my experience is that the best stories that we see on our platform basically follow one of two story arcs, okay? The first story arc is, hi, I'm Sarah. I'm a CEO, a founder, I'm a cat mom, I live on a houseboat, right? And I've learned X along the journey, right? Doing Y, and I have Z piece of advice, right? So starting out, identifying yourself with a mix of personal and professional identifiers, not just professional, right? And not just personal, but both. And I've learned X along doing Y, and I have this piece of advice, right? Okay, the second one is not terribly different, but hi, I'm Sarah. My experience founding a company, right, has taught me X, Y, Z, and if my experience can help any of you, feel free to reach out, right? So you have people that take that different approach, but instead of ending, the big difference is, instead of ending with, and this is what I learned, they say, and if my experience can be of value to anybody else, then I'm here to help. Please reach out. And that's been really, really fascinating about Tribute. Over and over again, we hear from people saying, this platform makes me feel like I've got all these friends already and all these people that I feel personally connected to, and they're like normal human beings that I feel, want to talk to me, and they really want to help. So I think, like I said, you'll get the slides afterwards. I would pick one of the two as after you've kind of done those notes, and really, follow that story arc for you. So I want to leave, I know we're kind of running a little early. This is awesome. Hopefully we can have a rich discussion. I wanted to actually show and maybe read out loud some of the stories that we have on the platform today. I got permission to share these. These are some of my favorite stories, and I'm sure you can read them in the back, or you can read them in front, but I'll just read them for you. I'm an IT professional who started at a young age and looks to better the world through tech. My current life has me mentoring others, building community, and doing work and school full time. It's been an interesting experience having been degraded for being LGBTQ, to facing discrimination in the workplace, to now living authentically and working to level up our industry. There is always potential in our journey. Need help? Feel free to reach out. As an immigrant, female, and first-generation college student, I know what overcoming adversity is about. I have a bachelor's degree in political science and a certificate in software engineering. I'm in the midst of navigating the tech field to land my first development job while staying true to my social values. Early in my IT leadership career, I realized that as an African American male, I was often the only person of color on my leadership team. When I needed to have an honest conversation about the things I did not know or understand without judgment, it was hard to find a safe place. Not having a tangible example at this level is a heavy burden to carry alone. So I made it my mission to always aid others who share in a similar struggle. So I just have a quick question. If you were to read any of those stories, would you feel weird reaching out or awkward reaching out to any of those folks asking for help? Anyone? Maybe? Okay. If you were in a position to hire that woman in the middle and you read that story, would you be maybe more likely to reach out if you had a software engineering position to help her out? Yeah. Exactly. I think this is the power of storytelling, and it doesn't have to be complicated. And I'm not here to maybe tell you anything that you don't already know, but I think that being able to spend some time with our stories and knowing that story and knowing how to tell it in a productive way is really the first step. So I think I wanted to leave you guys with that today of kind of the why it's important, not only just from connecting, but also scientifically. There's evidence and proof that this matters, and we're changing the way, hopefully, that we're connecting with mentors in the workplace. So I know I'm a little bit early, but hopefully that's okay. I don't have a whole lot to blab at you, but this is my this is my take on why it's important today as we're finding mentors and relationships become more important. So thank you guys for your time. I really appreciate it. Yeah. Happy to take questions.
Sarah, thank you very much. I'm smarter now than I was an hour ago.
Thank you.
How do you know when it's your time to be a mentor versus being a mentee?
Yeah. You mean in life or in our app?
In life.
In life. I think it's a good question. I have sort of taken the approach that I'm both all the time, that there's always something I can give to others, and there's always something I can get. So I have mentees. I have 8 mentees right now. I've got 4 mentors that I regularly connect with, and it's, to me, a very fluid, circular exchange. I will say this, when I found in my personal life that when I really need mentors is when things aren't always going well. So I think there's certainly moments in time where it's an acute need more than just sort of a always-on need. And that observation that I had also has been brought into the project with Tribute, because not a lot of people feel comfortable saying, I just got passed over for a promotion, I need a mentor. So, or maybe something, maybe I just got divorced, or maybe there's other things going on in a life that are making me struggle with focusing at work. It's like we don't want to say what's not going well. So, I don't know. I think it's both, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like I have a number of people in my life who I would consider a mentor, but we've never had that official, you are my mentor. And I was wondering if you think that there's value in having that conversation or question, or if it's fine to just kind of have it be an unspoken sort of relationship.
I'm a huge fan of organic relationships, so I'm always going to say you do not need to go and be like, will you be my mentor? I think that's awkward. I think it puts undue pressure on the relationship. I think our tagline at Tribute is Mentorship Redefined, very intentionally, to say that this is meant to be a very organic marketplace that we're creating for people to find the help that they need. One thing I didn't mention, Tribute, is unique also in that our mentorship engagements are 30 days each. You can extend them beyond, but we only give you a 30-day period, and that's meant to be like, I'm not asking for your lifetime commitment. I just need a few conversations about this particular topic. Can you help out? If so, great. So yeah, I'm a fan of organic relationships, always. I wouldn't make it awkward for the sake of making it awkward. Yeah.
I'm in the middle of the organic versus, because I think if you commit yourself as a mentor, you are committing, hey, I'm going to help you. And like you said, in times of crisis, I need to call you.
Yeah.
And I need you to answer or help me within that day or within that hour.
Yeah.
So I think having some loose mentor relationship of, hey, can I call you when I need you and you'll answer?
Totally.
And saying, yeah, I'm there for you.
You know, it's so funny you say that, because I think that at the end of the day, if you really need me, like you need me, and I'm going to drop the phone for everything, I would feel like my personal feelings and relationship about you would actually trump my title of if I'm your mentor or not, right? And I think that's why we need to make more friends and more like that we need to take a relationship view instead of a title or, you know. I don't think that there's a bad thing for formal mentorship programs, but I do think formal mentorship programs are those, let's schedule it on the calendar where we meet for coffee in the afternoon. It's not the 7 p.m. phone call of like, holy crap, I just got passed over and I can't stop crying and like, I need you to like walk me through this. Like if I was your friend and mentor, I would pick up. So I think we're just trying to create more genuine relationships where I genuinely care about you. Not that mentors don't care about you, but we're aiming for that, really.
I'm in the midst of a few like mentor-mentee relationships, both like formally and informally, and I feel like it's pretty like easy to say actionable items to take when maybe some things aren't going so well. What's the best way that you recommend maintaining those relationships when things like are going well? Like how do you reach out to a mentee and being, how are things going? Do you need anything from me, or how do I keep contact with the mentor?
Yeah, so the question was, I've got mentee-mentor relationships. It's easy to reach out when things aren't going well, but when they are going well, how do you maintain that relationship throughout so that it doesn't feel like it's just sort of getting stale, it sounds like. Yeah, no, and I'll just speak from personal experience. I think it's okay to have quiet periods where there isn't anything that anybody needs and you go back to your life and, things are going great. I don't think it's on the onus of the mentor or mentee to spark the next conversation. I have mentors. I had one yesterday who called me and said, hey, how you doing? And I'm like, I'm fundraising for my startup right now. Founders know this is a very hard time in our journey. And I tend to bury my head when it gets really hard. He's like, okay, Sarah, this is the last time I'm going to pick up the phone and call you. Like, you need to call me when you need something, So I think it's okay if you have those quiet periods. And it's also okay, like I've got mentees that I mentored in that 30-day period that will follow up with me, or they'll have a random need and just sort of send me an email months down the road, hey, Sarah, can you help me out with this? And I just jump in to help. So I don't think there's any rules. I think it comes down to relationships. If these are people that you want to have in your network and in your corner as you navigate life from now on out, like any relationship, you just, keep in touch with them or send them a note of gratitude, and that's all that's really expected. Yeah.
Actually, I have another follow-up question. Or there's other ones.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, finish up.
Okay, thank you. The other one I had is like, I have some mentee relationships that I think have like been healthy at first, but now I feel like they've been reaching out to me way too frequently or asking things that are a bit too much. I don't have the time for it. How do I like professionally explain to them that I can step back?
So the other half of this talk that we that I spend time with people is learning how to have not only difficult conversations, but meaningful conversations. Because a lot of times also when we do our mentor engagements, how many of you have like suffered the monologue? Let me just tell you about my life. You get on a mentor and they're like, let me tell you about the time when I walked up a hill twice and you're like, oh my God. And then you're like, I definitely don't have anything to add to this conversation. So I think getting to deeper levels of conversation where there's a dialogue and there's a mutual exchange of benefit. I think in this case, what jumps off the page to me is it might just have to be a difficult conversation, a boundary setting of saying, hey, you know what, this is the time commitment that that I can make. This is what I can't do. This is where I can help. This is where I can point you in the direction of other people that might be able to help you more. But I think that's another skill set that I'm still learning at 36, is being able to have a difficult conversation of, hey, we got to cut this down. But that ultimately serves the mentee the best too, because they can't use you as a complete crutch, right, for everything they need. So, yeah.
I was just going to say that as someone who's mentored people off and on over the years, it really feels good to hear that they've launched themselves and they're doing well.
Yeah.
So you don't need to only call when you have a problem. Short note that says, hey, I chose not to go to med school, but this is what I'm doing and I'm happy.
Yeah.
That does a lot, and just occasionally doing that for people is really probably that's how you keep the relationship going.
Totally. I think, notes of gratitude or just updates. I totally agree. I think the other thing that, yeah, and I think that the other thing unsaid here is that mentorship, in addition to being an exchange of wisdom, which can come from our lived experiences, personal and professional, should be a purpose-driven activity that makes you feel like, oh, my advice or my lived experience is helping somebody else. It shouldn't feel like a chore. I feel like too often we feel like it's a chore, and that's where we gotta, and for me anyway, it's sort of why I call it modern mentorship, is I'm trying to change the workplace. I want to get people into that place of purpose sharing instead of feeling like, oh, I have to sign up for this call every month that I don't know what to say or talk about. So, yeah.
Do you have your clients do these stories spoken? Because they're pretty heavy,
Today we don't. They're just written. They're written. We've got roadmap plans for video even, where you could be on video and share a story. But yeah, they're just written today. Yeah.
Are yours all in English?
Today we're in English only. Yeah, we've got the Humans of IT is a global community, so we've got some folks that prefer their natural language first, and but the primary English that they connect on primary language is English that they connect around. Yeah, today we're English only. But any other questions? Yeah.
I don't know if you tested with a group of employees that are tech, and if you have tested it, how was it received?
With having this be in tech?
Yeah.
So these are all examples from tech, which is probably surprising as well. So I have to give Microsoft kudos. Their Humans of IT group that they have created, or the movement that they've created. In fact, I went to their Ignite conference. It's their Global IT Professionals Conference in November, 40,000 people. And they had a diversity and inclusion track for the first time ever at that conference. And it was amazing and the whole thing was telling people stories. So they're, one of the leading tech, organizations that is really leaning into humanizing tech, where you can work in tech and have a vulnerable story like this to share and actually connect with somebody in an unexpected way. Yeah.
You said something interesting, that this is a B2B business.
Yeah.
What's the cash flow model? Are you free to discuss that?
Business model, so we charge an annual subscription to companies. So today, because we're looking for early adopters, we cap that at $50,000 a year, and they can use Tribute unlimited in terms of the user size in their organization. So it's pretty straightforward today, but as we mature, kind of figuring out a per user model. Yeah. Yeah, there's a question in the back.
So my team and I are here to develop some projects, and I was just wondering if you would know any sites or pages to get in contact with close mentors or mentors that could help us in our process here by developing projects.
Yeah, I mean, I think I can definitely give details on Microsoft's Humans of IT community, because it is a global community of IT professionals. There's lots of there's entrepreneurs in that org. In that instance, we've got a lot of software developers, men and women, from all cultures around the world that are in that group today. So I can. So it's called Microsoft's Humans of IT. So if you just Google or Bing that, Google, I don't work there anymore. You can find it, or I can give the link to Caroline as well to include in the notes. But that's a free community that you can join today. That you can sign up for Tribute, download it, participate. And CoMotion has a great mentoring program too. So you can talk to Laura or Ashley. So she's waving her hand. Yeah, they've got more of a hands-on mentoring program too that you can use as well. Any other questions?
Yeah, one of the paradoxes I've heard about mentoring in companies is that there's an up-and-coming female junior who wants to be part of the leadership team and is looking for a female mentor to help, but that company only has a male leadership team.
Right.
What advice do you have to kind of help in that type of situation?
Yeah, so what advice do I have if you're a female looking for a female mentor that doesn't exist at the top of your company? So fun fact, Tribute was actually not only a consumer business first, but we were women only when we started because of this problem, because it was like, hey, we need to help, we need to have more women helping women rise. I have shifted not only to being B2B, but to including men and women on the platform, and I'm really glad I did. I'm really glad I did. I think that there's always that notion of if you got to see it to believe it. So you want to look up, and that can be a cultural statement, that can be a gender statement, right? That can be somebody who comes from my background statement. I think we always want to look up and see role models that look like us. That being said, I have many male mentors in leadership positions, especially as a founder, that are tremendous and help me rise. They're picking me up and pulling me forward. So my views of that have changed. I think it doesn't have to be a woman only, but I do think on the flip side of that, we need to be able to have more women in leadership positions as role models to other women that, yes, there's no glass ceiling anymore. And I'll say last thing, I had so many men coming up to me at the conference that said, thank you for creating a platform like Tribute that allows me to not have to be my macho self. Like I can just show up and be like a normal dad, that like I have life experiences too, that like I don't have to lead with my job either. So that was probably the most heartwarming feedback that I got, that men were like so appreciative to have a place like Tribute to go. And that was pretty cool. Yeah, I was pretty proud. So hopefully this, oh yeah, you got a question?
I have a question about geographic proximity.
Yes.
So building relationships within the same building or organization versus across time zones.
Yep.
And how that overlays.
Yeah, so building relationships across time zones. I think you probably have all been seeing that work is becoming more remote, right? I mean, we're reading more and more every day about this. So I think one of the interesting things is, the coffee date for mentorship is also, that's not the only modality anymore for mentorship. We have to be able to create relationships across geographic locations. In Tribute, the way we address that is we allow you to say if you only want to see story cards of people within certain time zones, so that way, you're not waking up in the middle of the night to have a mentoring session with somebody, you can do that. So you can kind of narrow down your proximity in the app if you are looking for someone closer to you. But yeah, I think with modern communication tools, Zoom, Teams, Slack, all of this that we've got access today, I think video can be just as just as impactful, or a phone call. And most of my mentees don't live in Seattle, which is an interesting fact. But I've met them in the app, or they found me, and they're from all over the world. So, yeah. Any questions? Was this helpful? I mean, have you guys thought about mentoring this way before? I'm hoping it's not too radical of an idea that we lead with stories, but yeah, hopefully this was helpful. I'd say do that lifeline exercise and either send me an email with your 100-word story. I want to read it, or send me a link to your LinkedIn article too, because also figuring out the title of your article, don't do the title first. Do your story. I can tell you, pro tip, write your story, and then the title will actually come, because if you sit there and try to do the title first, you'll walk away from it being so frustrated, or it'll box you into the story you think you have to tell. So do it the other way around, is what I find is helpful. Random, but.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you guys very much.